one's for the birds, this one's for the city. This one for the fans that bleed green with me. Push down the 95 to the right is the link. With a team pulling up, knowing that they're getting beat. Exit Broad Street, right on Pederson. Xfinity Live, CPP, what's happening? Dub F-Lie, stop by F1. Fly, Eagles fly, you hear the song getting sung? What team in the league is number one? Bird gang, yeah, I said it twice. You heard me say it once, now you sure you heard it right. No lies being told, yeah, it's all facts. It ain't Meg, Green, and Kelly, we don't rock with that. Any given Sunday, we don't ever slack. Yeah, we got an SP, time to run it back. And even on the road, yeah, we taking over. All you see is green like you at the Nova. Care less about your squad, bro, it's only us. A cheesesteak tailgate, yeah, we good, bruh. Beer pong baptism, you already know. Con shot, tomato pie, bring 3 or 4. After every bird gang, you know where to be. 4th of John, NBC, in the heart of Philly. About the birds, all about the birds. E-Rock, yeah, find us Hollywood Herd. Look up.
Here we go. Broadcasting live from NBC Sports Philadelphia studios in the heart of the Wells Fargo Center. Welcome to 4th and John, episode number 106. Boys and girls, your beloved Philadelphia Eagles are 3-3. 3-3. Not exactly what we were hoping for in the beginning of the season, not exactly how we envisioned this all panning out, but 3-3, guess what, Gail? It's not the end of the world. I mean, 3-3, as Doug Pederson so eloquently stated at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Monday after getting our butts kicked by the Vikings. Hey, we're going to go down to Jerry World, win that game, and we'll be at the top of the NFC East. Right? Sounds pretty good. Glass is half full. No worries, Evan Hollywood Hearn.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be okay. Let's put it into perspective and look at the flip side of things. You lose to the Dallas Cowboys, and the Giants, who play the Arizona Cardinals, win. Now all of a sudden, you are tied with the New York Giants. Good news is you could be at the top of the NFC East by this time next week. Bad news is you could also be tied with the New York Giants. But that's what playing average football, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, gets you. It gets you average results. It gets you a 500 team. And I'm not going to call this game a must-win, but I'm going to call it a must-win. And I know that phrase has a lot of negative connotation to it, and a lot of times is used in Philadelphia sports talk media as a way to kind of conjure up conversation. Well, I'm not taking any phone calls, but I'm going to say it. This is a must-win for the Philadelphia Eagles. Because, again, I keep referencing the schedule. Take a look at the schedule and what we got coming up. You got the Dallas Cowboys, you got the Buffalo Bills, the Chicago Bears, the New England Patriots, and the Seattle Seahawks. Your next 5 opponents, including those Dallas Cowboys, are combined 21-7. Dallas is the only one without a winning record, and they're 500. So playing average football to be 3-3 is not going to cut it, because I don't know if you've taken a look around the rest of the NFC, but a couple weeks ago it seemed wide open. Take a look again. Take a look now. Take a look at the undefeated San Francisco 49ers. Take a look at the way Russell Wilson is playing with the Seattle Seahawks. Take a look at the way a Teddy Bridgewater, Drew Breesless New Orleans Saints is still getting the job done. And take a look at the NFC North, where nobody's got a losing record. Take a look at all of it, and then tell me the way that team played on Sunday that the Eagles have any shot of making the playoffs besides winning the division. You want to make it to the playoffs, you beat the Dallas Cowboys. You can't get swept by the Dallas Cowboys like you did last year and hope you sneak into the playoffs with Nick Foles. Ain't going to happen. You can't split with the Dallas Cowboys this year. You got to sweep the Dallas Cowboys. Win the division. Yeah. And that is your only chance of making the 2019 NFL playoffs. We got a lot to get into today.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, we got a lot, including some breaking news that just popped off right before Gail walked through the door all heated. Not that I'm not heated enough already, but Mr. Gail Saunders, Eagle Sessions on Twitter. How are you doing this evening?
A little heated, man. A little upset. The words that keep going through my head are nonchalant-ass mother fathers. This Eagles franchise and this football team and the organization. I think we need to show a sense of urgency, because at this moment we sit here at 3-3. We're playing basic ball, I don't like doing predictions. You guys force me to do them every year. I did pick the Vikings to beat our Eagles. And one of the things that just stands out is the secondary, dude. These cornerbacks, and just with the breaking news of Jalen Ramsey, the Rams trading for him. You have to.
You think he could have helped?
Of course, of course.
I think that was rhetorical.
It's a matter of like making moves. And in the last 2 years, teams on a Super Bowl runs have made bold moves. The 2017 Patriots gave up a first, a third for Brandon Cooks, and they recouped Rams first. 2018 Rams signed Ndamukong Suh, $14 million, traded a first and a sixth for Brandon Cooks, a third and a fifth for Dante Fowler, a second and a fourth for Marcus Peters, a fifth for Aqib Talib. That's called making moves when there's a window. And I think this Eagles team has to realize that there's a window. I know you have to ball on a budget, but you also have to realize that the window isn't in place, and you have to make some bold moves at some times of urgency.
The loss against the Minnesota Vikings was incredibly frustrating for multiple reasons. But one of the biggest reasons was it exposed, and exposed is too bold of a word, because we all knew it going into the season. We all had our reservations about this positional group. But it highlighted the fatal flaw of the Philadelphia Eagles. And when I say fatal flaw, that doesn't mean they're not going to be able to compete, because I think they can compete. When I say fatal flaw, I don't mean that they can't beat the Dallas Cowboys, because I think they will go down there and beat the Dallas Cowboys. When I say fatal flaw, I don't mean that they won't win the division, because ultimately I do think that the Philadelphia Eagles will win the division. But eventually, at some point, this flaw is going to catch up to you and cost you in the playoffs and stuff like that, and that is the defensive secondary. Mm-hmm. It is a unique positional group to suck at, because if your offensive line is suspect, you can do things to help the offensive line. Max protect, bring the tight ends in. Your running backs are going to chip, help protect the quarterback. If your wide receivers aren't getting separation, you can do things schematically to manufacture separation. A lot of which the Eagles were trying to do, ultimately failing at, but trying to do there in Minnesota, where they were using bubble screens and wide receiver screens and sort of jet motion to manufacture that type of separation. If your defensive line sucks, you can do things to help them out. Blitzing, bringing in a linebacker, doing stunts, as our man Trey Thomas says, the TEs and the ETs and all that. If your secondary blows, you are in a uniquely bad position, because those dudes are out there on an island all to themselves. And it has become clear that the concern that I and many Eagles fans had going into the season, whereas, look, you've got quantity, but you don't got quality. Mm-hmm. The good news is all your backups have starting experience. The bad news is all your backups have starting experience due to injuries. And what manifests itself? Jalen Mills, who's coming back this week, has yet to see the field. If any of the other injured players that came back prove anything to you, it takes about 4 weeks in order for you to get your sea legs underneath you to be able to play. So how much is Jalen Mills gonna help out? Ronald Darby is coming back. Ronald Darby is Byron Maxwell with dreadlocks. Tell me otherwise.
Yeah, wrong.
Yeah.
And Ronald Darby is a move that you brought him back.
Yeah.
You gave him some money, but not a lot of money, but there's incentives in there.
You got a bunch of guys.
But a guy coming off an ACL injury, he's dealing with hamstring injuries. A hamstring and a foot is a thing that happens with only Eagles corners. I mean, it's going around the room. I think, just the way that, the thing that's concerning me now is the communication issues between the cornerbacks and the safeties. You have Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen running wide open. You have cornerbacks and safeties looking at each other like, where are you? Like, that's the concerning part about, it's one thing to get beat as a corner and have safety help over the top. But when you don't have safety help due to communication issues, that's an issue. And you see Malcolm Jenkins talking about, he's putting out a message. Kind of calling some of the corners maybe suckers.
I sort of got that calling out kind of vibe from hearing
Doug
that quote.
Pederson alluded to it like last week in terms of Sidney Jones and working through his issues and kind of toughening up and it's sad to see the Sidney Jones season brand and Sewell Island brand got put on full blast this week.
Yeah, I've been taking L's all season long, because not only was I hyping up Sidney Jones as the reincarnation of Asante Samuel, and that has failed. He's not the reincarnation of Asante Samuel. He is defensive Nelson Aguilar, where it's just a complete lack of confidence.
Yeah.
In his own head, not confident at all, doing the wrong things. Like this, oh my God, this was supposed to be the guy. This was supposed to be our number one. And he is getting chewed up on double move. Oh, by the way, another L that E-Rock took this offseason. I was all hyped up about the signing of Zac Brown.
Oh, yeah. He's back on tour now, right?
Oh, yeah. No,
He got the band back together? He's got nothing else going on Sundays?
Yeah, I had such high hopes for that linebacker. A veteran linebacker, a run stuffer, a short tackler, maybe the best run-stuffing linebacker that we've had since Jeremiah Trotter. Nope. E-Rock's gone wrong again. Dude, I'm taking just as many L's this season as the team is. It's frustrating.
You threw Asante Samuel's name and Jeremiah Trotter's name, comparing them to players on this team.
I know.
You
I feel dirty about it.
Remember you called Corey Clement Westbrook?
Oh, God.
Evan Hollywood Hearn, how are you doing this evening? You son of a...
How am I doing today? How do you think I'm doing today? I mean, I feel like a kid who just got his Fortnite taken from him, man. Like dude, I came in here last week and I said we got to have an honest conversation about Jim Schwartz, and my stance hasn't changed. Well, we go into another game with another 100-yard receiver, and let's just stop at 100-yard receiver. How about 100 yards before the half again? Stephon Diggs throw another 100 yards on the Eagles' defense before the half. There's no safeties going down and helping. I don't understand how Howie didn't make this trade happen. I know we're going to get to the Jalen Ramsey talk.
Well, let's get into it. Let's go
I'm
right
saying
in.
we've got, even if it wasn't Jalen Ramsey, we are hemorrhaging at the defensive back position, and we desperately need help. And the fact that we're making no motion towards that, like we've got guys that are clearly not capable of performing their duties right now. So the fact that we're going week in and week out with an understaffed crew, I don't get it.
I mean, receivers are getting theirs every week. I mean, Terry McLaurin, 5 catches, 125. YPC, 25 yards, a touchdown. Julio Jones, 5, 106, 21.2, 2 touchdowns. Marvin Jones, 6 catches, 101, 16.8, 1 touchdown. Devontae Adams, 10 catches, 180. 18 yards a catch. Stephon Diggs, 7 catches, 167, 23.9, 3 touchdowns.
And with all that going on, all of that happening, Zac Brown, glad he's off the team. That's fine. He had the gall to say that we want to put it in the hands of the quarterback. Our DBs, week in and week out, are getting torn up. And
I said the same thing.
And you're saying that we need the quarterback to beat us? The quarterback has beaten us.
Gee Willikers.
Every game that we've lost.
I don't know what it is about the Philadelphia Eagles that makes Kirk Cousins look like Joe Montana.
He's 6-3 versus the Eagles now.
6-3. I had to go back and look at the numbers because, for those of you that are old enough to remember the Cardinals in the NFC East, and I know I'm dating myself a little bit here, there was a guy by the name of Jake Plummer.
Jake the Snake.
Jake the Snake looked like trash.
Yeah.
He was a trash quarterback, except when he played the Eagles. And it's almost like Kirk Cousins is the reincarnation, that Ned Flanders jerk is a reincarnation of Jake Plummer. And I honestly had to go back and look at the numbers. Because I was wondering, am I just conjuring this up in my head?
Are these EFF stats?
These are EFF stats. Eagles, or Kirk Cousins' lifetime versus the Eagles. 306 yards, 2.3 touchdowns, 0.67 interceptions, and on average, a 102.1 passer rating. Go look up his career stats. Those are significantly higher than his career stats. I didn't write down his career stats, but I was just looking like every time he plays us, he has a great game. I don't get it. What is it about Kirk Cousins, the Eagles, that makes this guy look like Dan Marino?
Maybe the corners.
Maybe our DBs are basic.
Well, you mentioned Jim Schwartz. Like, we got to have an honest conversation about Jim Schwartz. I took a look at like the big passing plays, and you can either blame Jim Schwartz or you can blame the talent. And as much as I want to point the finger at Jim Schwartz and say your scheme sucks, and sometimes it does, it's an overall, like, what is he supposed to do with those DBs? Just let me run through this before you answer that. First big play of the game, the Thielen inverted Tampa 2 safety was covering. The safety was covering. The guy was covered. First touchdown pass to Thielen. Sid is outside 1-on-1, 5 yards off the line, gets juked, double move. Almost a touchdown by Thielen. If you remember, Kirk Cousins threw up like a punt, like it was just shot put it in the air. Malcolm Jenkins was defending, almost a touchdown. Diggs' first touchdown, Douglas got burned. It looks like he's jogging out there. He just can't keep up with the guy. Diggs' second touchdown. Both wide receivers are open. Miscommunication by Jenkins. I'm watching the game at my mother's house. My grandmother, who none of you met, she's a 90-year-old sweet little lady. She screams at the TV, JFC, they're both open. You could have taken your pick. If my 90-year-old grandmother can see it, you can tell me that Kirk Cousins in the pocket isn't going to see it right there. Even the interception by Sendejo bounced off of Diggs' face mask. Jones was burned on that out route. Diggs' third touchdown. It's just unfair. Diggs has become the first Vikings wide receiver with 2 50-plus yard touchdown receptions since Randy Moss in the year 2000.
Making Diggs look like Randy Moss.
Making Diggs look like Randy Moss. The moral of the story here is Jim Schwartz, what is he supposed to do? There either is a schematic problem or there's a lack of talent problem. And what I see is a lack of talent problem.
I think it's both. I mean, I think you have to put your players in a position to win. Now, like on a 3rd and 13, you have nuanced route runners in Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen. On 3rd and 13, go back and look at the play in slow-mo. Adam Thielen goes untouched for 13 yards, runs right through the defense, and it's like time after time, like you have Adam Thielen by the goal line against Sidney Jones. He's playing 7 yards off of Adam Thielen. He's down by the goal line. There's some certain point, you have to trust the cornerback's athletic ability, God-given talent. That's why he's got drafted in the 2nd round after tearing Achilles. Yeah. Man up. Like you're putting in these players in a position to fail. You think. I played wide receiver in college. Anytime I had off coverage, I was like, thank God, bro. Like you're making it easy for me. And you see Stephon Diggs, and that's why it was going to be a trouble for the secondary, just knowing Diggs and Thielen are nuanced route runners. They create separation so easy. So just moving forward, thinking about these corners and Jim Schwartz and what they're going to do, you're going to have a perfect matchup for our corners for us to be successful. You look at Ronald Darby. The dude tore his ACL trying to cover Amari Cooper last year. Go back and look at that one. I mean, it's just,
and Sidney Jones' hamstring, and the concerns that I had and many Eagles fans shared going into the season have been realized because it was a quantity versus quality issue at the defensive back. We were worried that the pass rush was not going to be effective. Michael Bennett, who now has been suspended by the New England Patriots for conduct detrimental to the team. I have no idea what that means, but I'm not surprised by it. Derek Barnett, Boo is in the chamber. He's around the ball, but he's not getting there. He's not getting. Is he a difference maker? So we were worried about the defensive backfield. That concern has been realized. We were worried about the defensive line. That concern has been realized. It's just unless they physically go and address this, it is going to be the fatal flaw of the which then begs the question. We circle back around to the Jalen Ramsey thing. Like, listen, you guys knew where I stood on the Jalen Ramsey thing. I didn't think it was going to happen. I thought it was a multi-layered issue. It was a multi-layered, not issue, but a deal that had a lot of layers to it. It wasn't going to be as easy as just throwing a couple first-round picks at Khan and saying, yeah. And it turns out it was that simple. It turns out it was just that simple. You know, everyone was like, well, maybe,
You guys laughed when I said whatever it takes. 2 firsts. You're like, nah, come on, nah.
That was 3 weeks ago.
Listen, I'm not going to deny my own hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Right? When I hear 2 first-round picks, I get a little tight. I'm like, ooh, that's Andre Dillard and Derek Barnett. Ooh, and then maybe a fourth.
But it's also Marcus Smith.
Yeah, but it's also Marcus Smith. You are right. It's also Marcus Smith and Danny Watkins. It's also that. But it's also Lane Johnson. Yeah. But now that the deal has been done, and apparently it seemed as straightforward as it looked, I don't know what the hell the delay was for, but now that it seems as straightforward as it looked, I'll be honest with you, a little pissed off.
Yeah. I mean, it was rumored that the Eagles offered a first and a second a couple weeks back, and they said no to that. And then just recently, Jalen Ramsey had a talk with the owner from the Jaguars.
Shotgun.
And it seems like they loosened up, and they were like, all right, this is not going to happen. And they opened the floodgates. And the like I said, Rams, early in the show, I said, I laid it out there. How aggressive were they last year in making moves?
Yeah, but all that for 3 points in the Super Bowl.
But I'm saying they needed to do that.
All that for 3 points in the Super Bowl.
But they were in the Super Bowl.
They needed to do that to get to the Super Bowl. If they didn't make those moves, they would have not made the Super Bowl.
Let me ask you this. Do you think the Rams are going to the Super Bowl now?
I don't.
Did the Rams scare you any more than they were? No.
I know they have a phenomenal defensive tackle that's giving you pressure up the middle, one of the top-notch interior pressure makers in the league, and now you have Jalen Ramsey as your corner. And I think that combination, that combination is kind of crazy. Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald.
I get it. You can take a look at the drafts. And you can look at who the Eagles have picked up and say that could have easily went to the Jaguars, who, by the way, not surprised that they kind of boned the Eagles if the Eagles were offering anywhere close to that, because this is the same organization that said, screw you, we're not going to give you anything for Nick Foles.
Yeah.
Remember, that was the match made in heaven. Nick Foles going to the Jacksonville Jaguars, hey, can you give us something, anything? Can you give us anything? Can you give us anything? And they didn't.
That was a good holdout on their part, because they got what they wanted, though.
Then they got what they wanted.
They got what they wanted, but the thing that is aggravating
by boning the Eagles.
The thing that's aggravating to me is it didn't even need to be Jalen Ramsey. It could be any guy. We just need help right now on the defensive backs. I brought up earlier before the show Minkah Fitzpatrick and what he's done for the Steelers defense since he
go through the stats because this is interesting.
Yeah. So before the Steelers added Minkah Fitzpatrick, they were allowing 30.5 yards per game, 30.5 points per game. 445 yards per game, and 320 passing yards per game. After acquiring Minkah Fitzpatrick, they're averaging 17.7 points per game, 296 yards per game, 169 of them being passing yards. And that's also 2 takeaways to 10 takeaways. He's obviously caused a huge turnaround for that Steelers team, and he's helping them stay in that division. We need help desperately at the defensive back position. And if we stay at the status quo of what we're at right now, the same is just going to continue to happen. We're going to continue week in and week out to get torn up.
People have been talking about Chris Harris for the Broncos. We've been talking about him for the last couple of shows. He has some experience with Corey Unlin. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's he's a 30-year-old who's probably looking for another contract next year, but you get him at a cheaper rate. Patrick Pederson, another guy who's been kind of rumored, like teams have been trying to make offers for him. And, the Eagles have always, had that love for Patrick Pederson.
Yeah, would have been nice like 10 years ago.
I mean, that trade could have went and happened if it wasn't for the, they were going to trade Kevin Cobb, but that fell through.
Oh, we got DRC.
Yeah, I mean, then there's Xavier Howard from the Dolphins. But that's a long shot.
They need to go out and get some. Right now, I'm just scrolling through the timeline. I'm just looking at it because there is a lot of Howie hate right now. There's a lot of pointing the finger at Howie. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and defend the guy because now, seeing as straightforward as it was, I'm sitting here going, "Well, geez, if that's all that it took, maybe Howie Roseman should have done it." But the thing is, like you came in super hot, right?
Yeah.
I even caught it on Instagram, posted it on Twitter.
Yeah.
You came in super hot saying that we don't draft well, hence the reason why you should get picks. And Howie's getting blamed a lot for that as well. Here's one of the things I wanted to ask, like if you take a look at the last 3 drafts, right? Howie gets a lot of blame for wasting a lot of picks. Why isn't that put on Joe Douglas? Joe Douglas, defender numero uno. The Joe Douglas stand number one.
I mean, he
Because
brought in players.
Because he brought in players, but that's Howie's job. Like, Howie's job is the trade for Deshaun Jackson. Howie's job is the trade for the running back.
But I felt like Joe Douglas was the football guy who guided him to certain players that he picked along the way.
Let's go over the last 3 drafts. Because we're talking about these picks, would you do it, wouldn't you do it, Howie sucks, Howie doesn't suck. 2019, Andre Dillard, Miles Sanders, JJ.
Where you at?
Sharif Miller, Clayton Thorson, who's a 5th-round pick, who's no longer on the team, is actually with the Dallas Cowboys right now. 2018, Dirt. You got Avonte Maddox, jack of all trades, but hurt at the moment. Josh Sweat, who's yet to really make any sort of impact. Matt Pryor, who's buried on the offensive line depth chart. And Jordan Mailata, who I believe is on injured reserve. 2017, the draft class that needed to make a major impact on this season for the Eagles to be successful. Derek Barnett, Sidney Jones, Rasul Douglas, Mac Hollins, Donnell Pumphrey, who, by the way, 7th-round pick of the XFL draft.
Oh, congratulations.
Congratulations, Pumphrey.
Donnell.
Shelton Gibson, Nate Gary, Elijah Qualls. So if Joe Douglas was in charge of putting together these draft boards, and we were all high-fiving, and I was saying, hey, great pick, Howie. No, it's not Howie. It's Joe Douglas. Why is Howie getting all the hate for the draft picks?
I mean, he has the last word, doesn't he?
He has the last word, but he's going off a list like a dude who's late for his fantasy football draft who stopped by a CVS to go get himself a list, like one of those magazines that Joe Douglas created. I bring this up only because I want the Howie hate to settle down. Like okay, listen, he might have. Oh, you're gritting your teeth. He might have dropped the proverbial ball on this trade. You don't know what discussions were going back and forth, and you don't know what discussions.
I know what discussions weren't going back and forth. 2 firsts and a 4th. That wasn't going back and forth.
He went with the 1st and the 2nd.
Yeah.
Shadow's like, no. I just think like there's opportunities and you have to strike while it's hot. I mean, that's at the end of the day. We're 12-10 since the Eagles won the Super Bowl. 12-10. That's basically average. You have to see that your weaknesses, and you have to forecast these opportunities. You know how he was licking his chops when this opportunity arose. Like Jalen Ramsey is almost going to be available. Come on, do the deal, man.
The thing is that there's been multiple top-tier cornerbacks that have been available, and we haven't really pursued them enough. We had Marcus Peters went today, and Jalen Ramsey went today. We had Minka Fitzpatrick go. And we're not trying to get any of them.
And if it makes sense, I mean, we're talking about age. Jalen Ramsey's 24. It's not like Patrick Peterson's 29. Chris Harris is 30. There's no you get Jalen Ramsey, you have a future in place at the cornerback position. You know what I mean?
I get what you're saying, but when we have a team that's just continually getting chewed up week in and week out, I don't understand how we do nothing.
No, I'm still saying make another move and let all these corners that we have. You can fight for that other position.
I am trying so hard as we talk our way through this Jalen Ramsey thing and this secondary thing and the draft thing and the. I'm trying really hard to be Team Howie right now. I'm trying to talk myself into, much like I tried to talk myself into Sidney Jones being a good quarterback and Zac Brown being one of the more underrated free agents. I'm trying to talk myself into being Team Howie right now.
Yeah, I mean,
but Gail, I got to be honest with you. Now that it's happened, I'm a little upset by it.
You have a right to be.
Yeah, I was driving and I got the text and my ears just got hot and I was like, I'm going to swerve off the road right quick. And, all my friends and my family's like texting me, Jalen Ramsey's going to the Rams. I mean, I was like, I was just more upset with how it went down. I'm like, that was a doable trade.
This has just been an overall extremely annoying weekend. This has just been an overall annoying weekend with the way the Eagles played. All right, let me ask you this. Did what Doug Pederson say on Monday bother you?
The nonchalant answer?
Nonchalant answer. No.
Which one?
The we're going to go down there and we're going to win.
Oh,
Did that bother you?
I just think he has to think about what he's saying. I mean, I understand, like, coach speak, but then you're on the radio, and that could be used against you again. Like I know what he meant, but I also know how it could be taken.
That's what I was thinking too. Because I was listening to it live, and I was in a cranky mood Monday morning, and to hear Doug Pederson all of a sudden, like, look, it's 8 o'clock on a Monday morning. I don't need you flexing right now, Doug. Not after you just got your ass kicked by the Minnesota Vikings. I don't need you flex. Because not only that, but it was like he wasn't. Hey, Doug, do you think you're going to win the game? No, he just kind of threw it out there.
Kind of spoke into existence, sort of.
Yeah.
I was like, all right.
I talked to Ike Reese yesterday, and I was like, what did you think about that? Because he didn't seem to mind it. And he was like, Doug knew what he was doing. He put that out there. He put that into the atmosphere. He did that as a motivational
challenge to the players.
A little challenge to the players. And I'm sitting here thinking, it's the Dallas Cowboys. Why would you need to throw that into existence?
Yeah.
Like, did we not learn anything from Zac Brown talking about how he might be the weakest link?
Yeah.
Like, and I realized that what Doug said wasn't that mean or that degrading or that brazen or bold.
It was pretty brazen.
But no, but you're putting it out to your radio show in the morning. And the segment that you do in the morning, you know damn right well WIP is going to take that clip and they're going to isolate it.
Yeah.
And then they're going to slap it on every form of social media that they can and say that Doug Pederson guaranteed a win. What happened? They did exactly that. And then you knew what was going to happen. The Dallas beat writers were going to get a hold of it, and that's exactly what they did. And all of a sudden they started using it for fuel. If you don't think that has an effect on the players, players and coaches and teams will manufacture disrespect in order to motivate their team. The Dallas Cowboys lost the last 3 games. They're going to take that and manufacture disrespect. We went on a Super Bowl run with I don't want to say manufactured disrespect, but we took a look at a Vegas line and felt nobody said nothing.
That's where the underdog thing came from.
Nobody said nothing. And we took a look at the line and felt that was disrespect. Let me ask you something, Gail. If that was Clappy McClapperson on the other side, and they said, we're going to go up to Philadelphia and we're going to win that game and we're going to be ahead
We
of
would
it.
use it as fuel.
I'd use it as fuel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. If the shoe was on the other foot, we'd be saying, oh, really, Jason Gale?
Well, let me ask you this, though. Is it not some cojones to walk in the day after getting blasted and the only thing your team has done is made yourself thinner by releasing Zac Brown to walk in and guarantee a win? We've done nothing but make ourselves thinner since that Vikings loss.
Yeah, well, I think Zac Brown, it's not just the comment. I think, if you watch his play, the word nonchalant keeps popping because if you see his play, you're like, dude, you're the starting linebacker for the Philadelphia Eagles. Right
okay,
now.
so who's starting?
Show some pride here. Camus coming back.
Camus back.
He's almost back. But Nigel right now is hurt.
Nate Gary.
Right.
Yeah, Gary will step in, and TJ Edwards.
It's another positional group where you got a bunch of guys. I mean, they might have known that this move was coming prior to the comment regardless because they signed that dude from the Falcons that was dancing in the locker room after
Duke
they kicked
Riley.
it. Yeah, Duke Riley.
Yeah.
I mean, they brought him on. All of a sudden, you revisit that Duke Riley trade and you go, oh, maybe this was in the making. Yeah. And Eagles fans, if you have any question as to why Zac Brown was released, ignore the comments. Go back and look at the 11 to 15-minute highlight film that the NFL always puts out of the game highlights. Watch number 52. Watch all the bad angles. Watch him nonchalantly,
out of place,
nonchalantly run down the sidelines and not make a tackle. Watch him whiff on tackles. Watch him just nonchalantly not want to engage in blocks.
And you're seeing teams start to take advantage of him in space, in coverage. So I think, T.J. Edwards, he was an undrafted linebacker that we brought in. He's showed out. I mean, he's a cerebral player. I think they like what they saw from him. He got some snaps at the back of the game last week. So I think, they got some guys that they think they can win with. I think Nigel Bradham, you got to hope that he's
not as serious.
Yeah, because, around here, you can be day to year. Day to day, week to week, day to year.
We're about 33 minutes into this show. We've talked about the Vikings. We've talked about the Eagles. We've talked about Jim Schwartz. We've talked about Zac Brown. We got a game coming up.
Yeah.
Against the hated division rival.
It's Dallas week.
It's Dallas week.
Let's go.
Yeah, it's Dallas. You got any juice for this game?
I do.
Okay, good. I'm glad you got the juice for this game. Because give it to me. Give it to me.
Dude, there's nothing better than playing against our number one. I mean, I think it's fair to say that, like, most Eagles fans, if you were to ask around, their most hated division rival is the Cowboys. A lot of people say the Giants just because they're right up the interstate, but there's something about that person from Philadelphia who's never stepped foot in Texas that grows up a Dallas Cowboys fan that just has this burning hate in my body. So I always get up for Dallas week. Even when we had the dream team, I had the power to get up for Dallas week. So no problem this week.
Gail, you ready for Dallas?
Always ready. I mean, these are your rivals. I mean, if you have to get up, then you have issues. Like, you should always know that come rival time, like, you put your best, foot forward. And I think it's an opportunity to go down in Jerry World and lay the smack down. You know, obviously we have injuries, but they have injuries too. And I think, they've lost 3 in a row.
They've lost 3 in a row.
You can't spell Dallas without 3 L's right now.
Nice.
So, obviously giving them a 4L in a row, that would be amazing.
Dallas.
Yeah, Dallas. Tyron Smith is injured. Lyle Collins is injured.
The good news
Amari Cooper is injured.
Yeah.
Byron Jones has a hamstring.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I'm excited about their injuries.
Yes, you are.
I'm just saying.
That's okay. You can say that.
We have
Maybe
injuries.
miss time.
We have injuries too. But I think that it's a perfect opportunity.
And don't all those
Don't
all those injuries perfectly line up with, like, the weaknesses of this Philadelphia Eagles team, where you can hopefully take advantage and go down on Sunday Night Football in front of a national audience, kind of steal one away from it. Amari Cooper quad, only 3 snaps against the Jets. Lifetime, 16 receptions, 292 yards, 3 touchdowns. I'm sorry, not lifetime, but in 2018 alone. Oh, even better, 16 receptions, 292 yards, 3 touchdowns. Collins on the offensive line, questionable with an MCL. Tyron Smith, questionable with an ankle. Randall Cobb, also their other receiving option. Missed the New York Jets game with a back. Their number 1 and number 2 receivers, if Cobb and Cooper aren't able to go, we're going to be Michael Gallup and Tavon Austin. Which, listen, they can still burn this defensive backfield, but at least it gives you somewhat of a leg up on what they're doing. It is amazing, Dallas fans. Please, in my mentions, do not come and talk to me with the injury excuse when the Eagles win this game. Do not come at me with the injury excuse, because the Eagles have had injuries the last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
And the reason why you won that division last year, the reason why you swept the Philadelphia Eagles, why did you beat the Eagles last time in Jerry World? Why did it happen? What happened at the end? It was Rasul Douglas, a backup cornerback, covering Amari Cooper, and an act of God bounced out of his hands. Why was Rasul Douglas in that game? Because of injury. So I don't want to hear jack from these Dallas Cowboys fans who are constantly in my mentions making up excuses about injuries. I love the Dallas fans constantly in my mentions talking about, 5 is greater than 1, 5 is greater than 1, 5 is greater than 1. You click on these people's profile pictures, and they're like 12 years old. They just hit puberty. What do you mean 5 is...
They don't even know what a VHS is, and that's the only thing that the Super Bowls are on.
They weren't even alive for these Super Bowls. So please, Dallas Cowboys, leave those tweets in your drafts. I don't want to hear jack about injuries and making excuses when the Eagles go down there and win. But... they have to do a certain number of things in order to win, and that is, and Ron Jaworski had amazing stats, and I don't have them in front of me, but go look at his Twitter feed. He has amazing stats on Dak Prescott's completion percentage and his quarterback rating when he hits his first read versus when he has to look around and go to maybe his second. He is a one-read quarterback. In other words, what you did against the Packers, the defensive movement, kind of disguising, making sure that Aaron Rodgers did not have the same read post-snap as he did pre-snap. If you can do that against Dak Prescott, it is going to force Dak Prescott into a position that he is uncomfortable with, and that is searching for receivers. By the way, his 2 main targets, hopefully, won't be there. So that means that you can stack the box, you can stop Ezekiel Elliott. It starts with Zeke, it ends with Zeke. It also, in the passing game, starts with taking away Dak Prescott's primary read.
And the thing that, plays to us in our strengths is we're still good against run. You can say whatever about us against the pass.
Number 2 in the NFL. We were number 1 last week.
We're really good against the run, and I think if you make them one-dimensional and then have Dak with no targets, Dak could be running around looking for making mistakes. I feel like pressure bust pipes, and I think it's a great opportunity for them to dial up the pressure.
The Eagles opened up as 2.5-point underdogs against the Dallas Cowboys. You know what that says to me? Vegas is not too confident in Dallas. Mm-hmm. Vegas is, because you get 3 just for being the home team, and with the same record, Vegas is not that confident in the Dallas Cowboys, especially with the injuries. Let's wrap this thing up. Let's go with the Twitter questions. Let's hit us with the Twitter questions.
Alrighty. So, Eagles fan 240 wants to know, when do we finally start holding Howie accountable for his terrible drafts and fantasy football style of management?
I don't think it's a fantasy football style of management. If you go back, and again, I'm going to be Team Howie on this one. If you go back and look at the off-season moves during this season and even last season, right? He was stacking them up. Let's not have revisionist history because Malik Jackson or Timmy Jernigan got injured or Deshaun Jackson's dealing with an abdominal strain, which, by the way, I have completely written off Deshaun Jackson for the remainder of the season. Anything that he gives us moving forward is going to be gravy, is going to be icing on the cake. All they keep doing is dancing around sports hernia. They don't want to say the word, sports hernia. So I honestly think he's either had a surgery or he's going to have a surgery eventually.
Secret surgery.
Well, just to correct what's going on, because I've had a hernia, and that's your core, man. That's what connects the top to the bottom, and when that ain't right, none of it's right. And if his game is speed, that's going to slow him down. I digress. The Howie Roseman thing. Let's not have revisionist history and take a look at the off-season moves and say that we weren't all psyched as hell before the season going into it with the moves that he made. He made a lot of them. The Eagles had a very busy off-season, and again, I'll point to the drafts. You want to talk about bad drafting. Joe Douglas was brought in to stack this board. So if you want to look at Howie Roseman and say that your picks suck, remember that he was handcuffed to Joe Douglas this entire time with the draft.
We got a Super Bowl while Joe Douglas was here. I love you, Joe Douglas.
But did that have anything to do with Joe Douglas or his draft? Did that have anything to do with Joe Douglas?
Of course.
Did that? Besides his connection with Jay Ajayi in Miami, did that have anything to do with
connections with the Ravens?
That was afterwards.
No. Bringing in Timmy Jernigan? Bringing Alshon Jeffrey?
Ooh.
Yeah, no. I mean, you want me to keep going?
No, you win this round. I'll get you next round.
I mean, how Roseman,
I'll get you next round. I'll get you next round.
I just think Howie Roseman has to right the ship.
And I think he can.
You got to right the ship right now.
I think he can. I think the reason why you have a Super Bowl right now is large in part on the shoulders of Howie on those little tiny ass shoulders.
Howie best have a trade in the chamber.
All right,
I think he does. He does.
Let's stick with that. Let's stay in that vein right now because Andrew Atheist wants to know: are we only
Reese's guy?
Yes, the Reese's guy. Are we really only one cornerback away from being a contending team?
I think we're a contending team right now, and I do think we're one cornerback away from. Do I want to say Super Bowl ready?
Isn't that what you mean by contending?
Yeah, but I think we're contending right now. I think we can contend right now. But contend means you can win the division, you can get into the playoffs. What you do from there on out is once you get into the dance.
I'm not confident at all in the secondary right now.
I'm not. Listen, I'm not going to lie to you and say that I'm high on the secondary or I'm confident in them.
It's a crucial piece, though.
But it's a crucial piece. But just like the Rams, just like I asked Gail a couple minutes ago, okay, so the Rams got Jalen Ramsey. Are they Super Bowl contenders now? Does that make them a contending team?
They got a shot.
Certainly they got a shot.
It's an upgrade. I mean, Jalen Ramsey over, Marcus Peters is a huge upgrade.
Yeah.
But are they? I don't think they're one piece away from being Super Bowl bound. However, I think they're in this weird tweener stage where even if you address the cornerback issue, you're still going to have issues along the. Listen, your cornerbacks can cover as well as anybody in the league. If you can't get pressure on the quarterback, he's going to have all day to throw the ball. Deion Sanders could only cover a man for a certain amount of time.
I mean, I think if they get the right player in here, you strengthen up maybe the right side of the defense. But I think you're a stronger defense. I think not only just the corners, I'm talking about injuries. This team has dealt with tons of injuries. Malcolm Jenkins alluded to it. You don't know what type how they're going to call the game because they don't know who's healthy yet. So I think getting those integral pieces back in place, like Jalen Mills and a Ronald Darby, at least the communication is going to be sound between the corners and the safeties.
Andrew, to answer your question, I don't know if the Eagles are just one piece, specifically one cornerback piece, away from being Super Bowl contenders, but I hope we find out. I hope he makes the move, and I hope we find out.
All right. Matthew Blythe wants to know, is it time to pull the plug on Sidney?
It's not time to pull the plug on Sidney. However, it's time to start exploring other options. In other words, I just referred to him as defensive Nelson Aguilar, right? Mm-hmm. Lack of confidence, kind of awkward, doesn't really know where he fits, isn't playing up to the way he can play, and then you realize, when we go and get an Alshon Jeffrey with the emergence of Zach Ertz, when we go get a Deshaun Jackson, or at least another wide receiver, a Torrey Smith, and all of a sudden Nelson Aguilar doesn't have to be the guy, all of a sudden he starts to shine. And then when he goes back, when Alshon Jeffrey goes down, when Deshaun Jackson goes down and he's got to be the guy again, he turtles up. Yeah. Maybe that's Sidney Jones. Maybe Sidney Jones can't be the guy. He can't be Revis Island. He can't be one of those premier Jalen Ramsey type corners where you can just, hey, half the field is shut down. You got it, Sid. Yeah. Maybe he needs to be a nickel. Maybe he's your Al Harris, where he's just a really good backup corner.
I don't think it's time to pull the plug on him. I think there's still opportunity to work on his confidence, put him in a position to succeed. And I don't think he's being put in the right position to succeed. I think it's due to a lot of injuries, but I think, we had him playing on the inside before. Maybe he's best suited there, but I think it's way too early. But one thing that concerns me is, his athletic ability. I think is that Achilles going to be the Achilles in his career? It's that now that he has an injury, is he ever going to be the same? Because a lot of players do not come back from that Achilles injury.
I think the wildest thing about Sidney Jones is that there was a guy, another cornerback that came out of Washington in the same exact draft, Kevin King. Yeah, who's honestly he's having a better career than Sidney Jones is right now.
Yeah, but he didn't get injured.
That's a mess.
Kevin King got torched.
Yeah, but Sidney also got injured before the draft. I'm just saying.
Sidney's disappointing. I'm just as after hyping that dude all offseason, I feel betrayed. There's nobody who's more disappointed than Sidney Jones than I am.
With all the players that were on the board at the time when we drafted him, some people were like, "Oh, how he's being arrogant for making that pick." I think, he made the pick, and he's got to live with it.
We were both a fan of it when it happened.
All right.
Yeah.
My man, real Prince Blue wants to know.
Oh!
He wants to know: are the mighty E-Rock and Eagle Sessions going to continue to monopolize the Mitchell and Ness market, or are they going to let little people get some gear too?
First of all, Gail, how dare you at Mitchell and Ness and call for backup after for the first time ever I might have outswagged you. You can't let me get one victory.
You were looking pretty swaggy, man. I'm not gonna lie.
Listen, I was
dripping hard.
Yo, when I came out the shop, I was feeling. I was with my daughter. I'm like, here, hold this bag. I'm gonna put this on. I got the hat on, the shades on, and everything like
Mitchell
that.
Mitchell and Ness makes nice gear, man.
I'm gonna do it for the grand. You can't give me one victory. You can't give me one.
Help me.
Help you.
Help.
You got all this stuff.
Hey,
I gotta pay for kids. And their clothes and stuff like that. You're out here balling. I'm balling on a budget.
Hey,
you can't give me one
diapers for kids and stuff like that.
Nah, man, they don't.
For the children.
You got to do it for the kids.
Hey, you were looking extra crispy.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to hear.
You know what I mean?
That's all I wanted to hear.
If a brother comments on your gear, you're doing something right.
All right, I got one more question from Puga to wrap it all up. All right.
Yeah.
So just since it's Dallas week, give me your favorite Eagles-Cowboys memory.
Yeah, I'll take it.
I'm just going to give some recent, just winning a Super Bowl, holding up that ring, and not having any Cowboy fan ever tell me that.
Particularly quiet that year.
When is your team going to win a ring? When you have a ring, and it's still the best feeling. So I'm just going to hold that little moment.
There's a lot of really great ones, and to spare you the typical sports talk radio, rate your top 10 Dallas Cowboy games. For me, Veterans Stadium, Cowboys, Eagles, 4th and 1. I was there for the game, and it's one of the earliest memory, because I must have been, 10 or 12, and listen, there's a lot of time between then and now and then, so things are a little fuzzy, but I can distinctly remember that play happening, the place erupting, and then the boos that happened when they realized they had to do it again, and the ground was shaking when they stopped them again. Seeing that live, that's one of my very vivid, distinct, being in the 600 level, in the stands as an Eagles fan, getting ready to play. That's one of my earliest memories of being at Veterans Stadium. So I'm gonna go with that one. Before we get on out of here, a couple shout-outs. Conshohocken Bakery, as always, making those tomato pies for the tailgate, and Bud Light as well. We got a new addition to the Bud Light family. Our boy had a baby. So
shout out to Alex.
Yeah, shout out to Alex. Green Legion, the Buffalo trip is sold out. You guys sold it completely out. Kudos to you. We will see you up at Buffalo for the pep rally, the tailgate, all that. But do not forget they're making that trip down to Miami as well, and that's going to be one of the big ones. We're going to try to, get a little. We're going to try to stuff a little E-Rock in a duffel bag and put them up in the overhead, and maybe we can make that trip with Green Legion. Who knows? But definitely check them out for all their tailgates.
The worldwide has to be in Miami, huh?
Dale. And of course, our Design Trees shop, the 4th and JAWN shop. Right now, it's hoodie season. Obviously, it's hoodie season. So we're offering, $15 off every order over $50. We're using the promo code hoodie SZN. That's for season, as the kids like to say it on the Twitter.com. So make sure you check that out. And until next week, listen, Dallas week must win.
Go Birds.
To win the division, you have to beat Dallas. To make the playoffs, you have to beat Dallas. I do not want to sit here in front of this camera and in front of this microphone next week and talk about the same nonsense. Until next time, let's go Birds. We'll see you next week.